All right, joining me now to discuss Paris Dennard, CNN political commentator, Republican consultant, and former George W. Bush White House staffer, and Symone Sanders, CNN political commentator and former National Press Secretary for Bernie Sanders' 2016 presidential campaign. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Paris, let me start with you and the question of the role of the federal executive in dealing with the crimes in U.S. cities. President Trump excoriated President Obama over crime in Chicago and Baltimore and St. Louis and other cities. Should President Trump be held culpable now for the record numbers we're seeing in the city of Baltimore and crime in other major cities?
Well, Victor, I think what you're seeing is, well, first let me just stop and point out, this is such an important piece that you did on your hometown of Baltimore, and I think the more attention we put on it from people like you, yourself, and the president, I think we can collaboratively come together to try to find solutions. But to your point about the role of the federal government, I think what you see now is President Trump is realizing that there are limitations to what you can do in the role of President of the United States. When you are a CEO of your own company, there's a lot more leeway that you have, and there are a lot more things that you can do with the stroke of a pen or with the sound of your voice. But as president, there's limitations. And so you've seen a lot of executive orders that have come out that have specifically talked about crime and justice and things of that nature. But it is difficult to do this work. But when you look at the fact that over 8 years, the crime rates that affected Chicago and places like Baltimore were sky high under the Obama administration. That's over 8 years. I think the president does have to take some responsibility as president of the United States, and that comes with the good and the bad. And what we're seeing in these spikes in Baltimore are the bad. But I think we should give him a little bit of time to let these things come together with respect to the executive order and the commissions and the study groups that they've try to put these people together so that they can make strategic recommendations to make a difference with the president and with the mayor in Baltimore.
Symone?
You know, the president talks about a new deal, for black communities, but Mayor Ras Baraka of Newark, New Jersey, talks about an urban revitalization plan, an urban Marshall Plan, which is an urban revitalization plan and investment strategy for cities, not just like Newark, but cities like Newark, like Baltimore, like Detroit, like Minneapolis, like Chicago. And I think that is what President Trump and the administration needs to look at. Look, we know that law and order does not work. Restarting the war on drugs, which is what in the piece that you played from Attorney General Sessions, that's what this is. And if we really want to reduce crime in communities and revitalize our communities, we need workforce investment programs. We need commitments from companies to relocate and participate in job programs. We need educational programs. We need all these other things. We need community policing. We need to rethink what it means to be safe in communities. And if you only attack the issues through we need more police on the street, that does not accomplish the totality of what needs to be done.
Paris, let me get to one element that Symone just mentioned, and we heard from Kimberly Legree there about the COPS program, the Federal Community-Oriented Policing Services. A 45% cut in the workforce there in the 2018 budget proposal. If the municipalities, and this isn't just Baltimore, you can go to states across the country. I just read a piece this morning from a police chief in South Carolina who says this works. Why cut it?
Look, this is a tough time and tough decisions have to be made. And we know across the board that have been cuts that have been in the president's proposed budget to Congress. But we do know that it's going to go to the Congress, and the Congress is the one who controls the purse strings. And so I'm sure the members of Congress will do the
But the president's budget sets his priorities. I mean, we know that the Congress, they carry the burden of the purse strings, but the president sets his priorities. And this, from at least the 2018 Justice Department request, says that this isn't one.
Well, as I understand it, and the president's budget did not call for the elimination of it, but called the reduction of it. You saw reductions all across the board when it came to prioritizing and how to get $56 billion to the Department of Defense. But I will just go back to one quick thing.
I've got just a minute left, but very quickly. I'll give you 10 seconds for this.
Yes, Symone made a very good point. It is a comprehensive strategy, and that's why the president's plan talked about education, it talked about crime, but it also talked about jobs. You can't just focus on one, you have to focus on all three.
And the question is, and when will the president deliver? He's only a few months in, and that's the question from people in Baltimore.
We got to keep waiting, apparently, Victor. We got to wait.
Symone, let me come to you. The Civil Rights Commission is now launching this 2-year investigation into the Trump administration on the rollback of civil rights offices. Here's a part of the statement, strongly worded from the office. They write, these proposed cuts would result in a dangerous reduction of civil rights enforcement across the country, leaving communities of color, LGBT people, older people, people with disabilities, and other marginalized groups exposed to a greater risk of discrimination. Your thoughts on this investigation from the Civil Rights Commission?
I mean, I think it's needed. I'm glad someone is being vigilant. Look, our civil rights are definitely under attack under this administration, not because I believe the Trump administration is targeting the civil rights and civil liberties of marginalized people in America, but we are casualties, proverbial casualties of war. So it is absolutely important that we stay vigilant. We've seen reductions from the administration in their civil rights division, and that directly correlates to the quality of life for people in places all across America.
Paris, quickly, why are these cutbacks? In the statement, they announced rollbacks in the civil rights divisions of the Department of Justice, Department of Education, Department of Labor, Housing and Urban Development. Why these cuts? You say these are tough times, but civil rights?
When you look at the issue at civil rights cuts at education specifically, you know, the Secretary of Education said that she was going to look at these and make sure that they are being applied appropriately. And so I think when you look at this independent commission of civil rights made up a lot of President Obama appointees, they are looking at it a different way than the conservatives or the Republicans on the commission, and the interpretation of how these things should be regulated. It's a difference of opinion on how we interpret it, but make no mistake about it. This president and this Department of Justice is committed to civil rights, but it's how you interpret it and how you go about doing it. And so that is what we're going to figure out the best way. And there's people at the White House working hard on this, like Jaron Smith, the head of domestic policy for urban revitalization in this country. And so we just need to give them time and give them the understanding that they're going to get something done.
All right.
I don't think there's any wiggle room on civil rights or civil liberties for the American people, but that's just me.
All right. Symone Sanders, Paris Dennard, thank you both. And I want to take just this moment to correct one thing I said in that story. I said African-American newspaper. Of course, it is the Afro-American newspaper. 125 years there in Baltimore and Washington, still being published today.